Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit Barbecue. If you've ever wanted to make sausage but you don't quite understand it, maybe you're a little nervous, well, this is a video for you guys. On today's video, we're going to keep it simple and we're going to make an SPG sausage. Stay tuned. All right, let's get started on this SPG sausage. Again, we're gonna keep this very simple. These ingredients right here is what every sausage recipe starts with and are very important ingredients to sausage making. I'm gonna start with 14 pounds of brisket, which is 6,356 grams of meat. All you gotta do is multiply the 14 times 454 because there's 454 grams in a pound, and that gives you this number right here. I'm adding 70 grams of salt, or 1.1%. Again, multiply 6,356 times 1.1%, and it's gonna give you this number right here of 70 grams. As far as black pepper, I'm using 64 grams, or 1%. Granulated garlic, 38 grams, or 0.6%. And a non-fat dry milk powder, 95 grams, or 1.5%. So a couple of reasons why we add non-fat dry milk powder, and again, this is a high temperature non-fat dry milk powder, is for moisture retention and to help bind the meat together. So on this recipe, I'm not adding any pink curing salt, but if I was, I want to show you guys how simple it is to calculate that. All I got to do is take 6,356 grams of meat, 6,356 grams, and multiply that times 0.25%. That gives us 15.89 grams of curing salt if I was going to add it. Since I'm going to be smoking these sausages at 150 degrees, I do not need to add any curing salt. Now, if you wanted to cold smoke these sausages between 100 degrees and 140 degrees, then I would highly recommend that you add a curing salt. But again, on this recipe, I'm going to be smoking these at 150 degrees, so it's not necessary. All right, I'm going to move these simple ingredients aside, go grab my brisket, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so here's my brisket, and this one is 14.53 pounds. Now, if you notice in the introduction, I said we had 14 pounds. I'm gonna trim about half a pound of fat off of this because I noticed it had a pretty big fat pocket on one side. All right, so this is a choice brisket, and I got it on sale for $2.46 a pound. Now, I did see a huge piece of fat on it. It's got a pretty good sized decal. So I'm going to take off a little bit of this, just about a pound, okay? And on this side, on the fat cap, I saw this big old hump of fat right here. I'm going to take some of this off. Now, a brisket is normally between 30 and 40% fat. This one right here, because of these big fat pockets, this one's probably going to be in that 40% range, okay? So I just want to take about a pound of this fat off. All right, that looks good to me. So I'm just going to cut this down into small squares. I've actually separated all of the fat from the meat, and that's where I found out that these briskets are anywhere between 30 and 40% fat. On the brisket where I separated 100%, it was actually 40% fat. So that's quite a bit. Now, when you're making sausage, you want about a 70% meat and 30% fat, 70-30 ratio. Now, a few years back, I did reach out to a meat processor, and I spoke to their head butcher, and he told me that most briskets are about 30% out of the package, but that you really have to look at the fat. And if it looks like it's got a lot of fat, that it could be close to that 40%. So the grinder that I'm using to grind this meat is a meat 1.5 horsepower grinder, okay? So I can put some nice big pieces and grind it up, and it's not gonna have any issues. Now, if you have a smaller grinder, let's say a 1 horsepower, you probably wanna cut your pieces of meat a little bit smaller, just like this. And if you have a 1/2 horsepower, you probably wanna cut that into 4, okay? Or smaller cubes, just like that, so you don't have any issues with your grinder stalling. Now, even with my 1.5 horsepower grinder, I gotta be very careful on how big the pieces of meat are. So I like probably 1-inch squares, which is perfect, just like this. All right, I'm gonna cut up the rest of this brisket and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so I've got the meat all cut up. Now before I grind it, I do want to talk about the die size that you use for grinding your meat. Now 99.9% of the time, I'm going to use this die right here, which is the 4.5mm die. That's going to give us a really nice grind on our sausage. It's not too fine and it's not too coarse. Now for these sausages, I want a coarse grind. I'm going to be using the 10mm die. And you can see the size of these holes right here compared to the 4.5mm. Again, 99.9% of the time, I'm going to be using this 4.5mm die, but for these sausages, I want a coarse ground sausage, so I'm using this 10mm die. So I'm just going to install this. Now this recipe came inspired from a gentleman that's the Meat Processing Enthusiast page on Facebook. If you guys are into sausage making or curing sausage, check it out if you have a Facebook page. I'm going to leave a link down inside the description box to that page. Again, it is the Meat Processing Enthusiast. If you guys are looking for a grinder or sausage making equipment, make sure you check out the company Meat down inside the description box. Check out their products and thank them for sponsoring today's video as well. All right, so now I'm just going to load up my hopper with all of our cube brisket. So I am using a foot pedal switch. All I got to do is tap on it just like that, and it turns on my grinder. Okay, those are available through Meat as well. If you don't have one, it makes life a lot easier. So again, this is a 1.5 horsepower grinder, and it will grind meat as fast as you can feed it. But I still like to take my time. I don't want to overfeed it. Got a really nice coarse grind, which is perfect. All right, I'm gonna grind up the rest of this meat, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so I've got the meat all ground up. Now it's time to add our spices. Now you have two options here. You can add all the dry spices into the meat, or you can mix it in with a little bit of water just so that the spices dissolve and makes the distribution a little bit easier. In this case, I'm just gonna throw them in. Got our salt, pepper, a little more pepper, and our garlic, SPG. Here's our non-fat dry milk powder. Now I have 4 cups of water right here. I'm just gonna add 1 cup to start. Now you can add water, beer, beef broth, essentially whatever you want. In this case, I'm just gonna add water. Again, this is a coarse ground sausage, so mix it all really well. Now, so I do need some more water, so I'm gonna add 1 more cup, total of 2 cups. You wanna get this mixture really nice and sticky, get that protein extraction, and the meat starts to really stick together. And you know when it's ready, when it starts to stick to your gloves, that's when you can stop mixing. Man, this smells so good. It's crazy that it's just salt, pepper, and garlic. Now this SPG sausage is a blank canvas, okay? From this point, you can add jalapenos, maybe 10 to 15%, maybe even 20%. Cheese, same thing. You can add other spices. Let's say you wanted to add some red color, maybe some paprika, some smoked paprika. You want to add some heat, maybe a little bit of cayenne pepper. So this is where most of your sausage recipes start, with your SPG, and again from this point, you can add whatever you want. Not sure if you guys can see the pepper in there, but it's actually pretty good on pepper. Check that out, and it smells absolutely amazing. It's getting really nice and sticky, starting to stick to my glove right here. In fact, that's good right there. All right, I'm gonna pop this mixture in my fridge, let it cool down for about 30 minutes, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so 30 minutes later, I'm just gonna stuff my sausage mixture into my canister. Super sticky. Make sure you remove any air pockets. Pack it in really nice and tight. All right, just load up your canister. And this is a 15-pound stuffer from meat. Lower down your piston. You want to get the meat to the tip of your horn, just like that. So I'm using a preloaded casing. Check out PS Seasoning for all the spices that I used in this video. You can get smaller casings from them as well if you want to do smaller batches. The Van Hessen brand is one that I really love. Real simple to load these casings. I like to throw a little bit of water on my tray so the sausages slide. Pull out a little bit of the casing. Tie a knot. One of the things I do as well is I get my sausage pricker, prick a couple holes at the end right here, and we are ready to start stuffing. Now you're controlling how thick these sausages are right here with your 2 fingers on your left hand. Real simple. And this sausage is looking good. Look at that. You can see the amount of pepper that's in this sausage. It's going to be absolutely delicious. I'm going to stuff up this casing and I'll bring you guys right back. Alright, so I've got the casing all stuffed up. Now it's time to link these sausages together. And I do have this tray marked at 6.5 and 7 inches. And I am going with the 7 inches today. So just measure out 7 inches, more or less. Pinch. Measure out another 7 inches. Pinch. Just like that. Now this casing is really tight, so I'm going to try not to puncture it. Just like that. You can twirl it or twist it. Okay? You want to twist just so that casing is nice and tight, and that is enough. Again, these casings are really nice and tight. Do one more for you guys. 7 inches. And another 7 inches. And then again, you can twist or twirl it. If the casing is loose, it's easier to twirl the sausage. But if it's tight, you might want to twist it with your hands. Okay, that looks good right there. So I'm going to link the rest of these up, pop them in my fridge for probably an hour and a half, let the casing dry up a little bit. I'm going to fire up my Yoder Frontiersman. We're going to be smoking these at 150 degrees using post oak, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, let's light up my Yoder Frontiersman. I'm going to be using Texas post oak from Gourmet Wood Products on this cook. Check them out at Academy Sports and Outdoors. You can find Texas post oak and several other flavors. So as you can see, I do have a bed of lump charcoal inside my firebox. I'm going to light it up using my grill gun from Grill Blazer. Check them out at the links below. All right, our coals are lit. I'm going to lay our piece of post oak right in the center of our coals. I'm going to let my smoker come up to 150 degrees, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so about 20 minutes later, the smoker's up to 150 degrees, maybe a little bit higher, but that's okay. It'll come down. So I'm going to be smoking these sausages on the top left-hand side of my Yoder Frontiersman. So I didn't snip the links, okay, on this cook, and that's because I didn't rest overnight to let those twists dry up, if you will. So I'm just going to put them in linked up. The only thing I'm making sure is that the links do not touch. Get them all the way around this grate here. So again, I'm smoking these sausages at 150 degrees. They're going to go for 2 hours, and after the second hour, I'm going to crank the temperature up to 225 degrees until we get 145 degrees internal temperature. Stay tuned. All right, so 3 hours and 45 minutes later, the sausages are ready. Now I did smoke them for an additional hour at 150 degrees. Then I cranked the temperature up to 250 degrees, and they came right up to 145 degrees in 45 minutes. And here is the sausage right here. I am cooling them off to stop that cooking process. I'm gonna snip a few of these, toss them back inside the smoker at 275 degrees. It's probably only gonna take about 20 minutes, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so 30 minutes later at 275 degrees, these sausages are ready. And take a look at these bad boys. So if you notice, these sausages are not as red as my other sausages, and the reason for that is because we didn't add any of the pink salt to this mix. Now the pink salt does give these sausages a nice reddish color, but these look fantastic. Let me cut into this bad boy. All right, let's see what this SPG sausage looks like. Remember, this is a coarse ground sausage. Oh my goodness. Look at that good amount of pepper. Got a good smoke ring on this sausage as well. That's something you normally don't see on sausages where you use that pink salt. Man, these smell absolutely amazing. Let's give it a taste. Man, I'm really liking the appearance of this coarse ground sausage. Look at that. Yummy. These are still really hot, but let's check that snap on these sausages. So good. I can't believe how delicious this sausage is. 3 simple ingredients, SPG. Just like when you cook a good steak, that's all you really need. If you guys have never tried an SPG sausage, give it a try. It is super delicious. Now I want to try some of this buzzed beer mustard from PS Seasoning. You know this is going to be fantastic. Look at that. Here we go. I gotta tell you, this buzzed beer mustard pairs extremely well with this sausage. Man, I'm going in for another bite. Look at that. Who wants some of this? So as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you guys are new to making sausage, you've got to try this recipe. It's so good. And from this point, you can actually build on it. Again, you can add some cheese, some jalapeno, maybe some other dry ingredients, and you'll end up with an amazing sausage. Don't forget to check out PS Seasoning on the link below and get yourself a 10% discount on all your sausage making supplies, and also the company Meat. Check out all of their sausage making equipment. I hope you guys enjoyed this simple and delicious sausage recipe. If this is your first time to my channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit BBQ. See ya.